Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Five Star Revolution Podcast, the one and only official Five Star Revolution Podcast. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and go over to our Facebook page, Five Star Revolution Podcast, for your chance to win a $200 Visa gift card. So share our Facebook page and subscribe to our YouTube channel right now. We have a very special guest tonight. His name is M3 Mint Mike Mitchell. How you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for joining us here tonight.
Thank you for inviting me.
So I always ask this question to everyone that comes on my podcast because everyone has a different story. Were you a wrestling fan growing up?
I was, yes. I mean, I have older brothers, so roughhousing and playing sports was, natural in my household. I wasn't always into wrestling, but I got into it. I would say in the Attitude Era. So when I was an early teen. Uh, so I mean, and that was when it was really mainstream. Besides the Hogan, the Golden Era. But yes, so I was a wrestling fan before I became a wrestler.
And who was your favorite wrestler growing up?
It was early on. It was Stone Cold Steve Austin, and then later it became Shawn Michaels.
How'd you get your start into the professional wrestling business?
Well, I think like all wrestlers who are starting out, they have some kind of beginnings. They might not be the prototypical beginning, but they might start out in backyard wrestling and clown around with their friends and trying to have backyard wrestling shows going on. And I I have a group of friends who did that, and they actually built their own ring, and they had an entrance, and it was pretty cool. So from there, myself and a few others decided to reach out and look for training centers, and we found one locally.
So who was your initial trainer? Where did you initially start training?
Sure, sure. So I'm from Scranton, Pennsylvania. Uh, a lot of bigger promotions or training centers or outside my area, more towards bigger cities in New Jersey or New York. Uh, we weren't quite really willing to go outside of our area. The only place we would be able to go is possibly Allentown to the Wild Samoans, but I'm not quite sure if we were able to do that. Being we're in our early 20s, not much money. Some of us are going to school. Some of us aren't making that much to pay for the school tuition and travel at the same time. So we stay locally, and we went to Backbreakers Training Center, and it's trained under head trainer Justin Glory.
So for those fans and for our listeners who don't know who M3 Mint Mike Mitchell is, you mind explaining a little bit about your character?
Sure. I mean, there's a few different ways you can go. It really works much better when I'm heel. But when I'm a baby face persona, uh, I am basically your prototypical baby face. I'm pretty vanilla as it is, but I claim to be. I'm in mint condition. Uh, but like I said, with heel, it's a lot easier to go about that. Trying to force the fact that I'm in better shape than you, being in mint condition or mint as far as money, as far as being a draw. Uh, it can go in any direction, and basically a playoff to win or what a promoter would like me to do. So,
So how do you stay in mint condition?
oh, it's not easy anymore. I'm pushing 35, and so I'm not able to eat as much junk as I used to. Um, really counting my calories and watching what I eat. Um, you know, counting the carbs and sugars and fats. So it's tough. But after this, I'm actually going to go to the gym and work out and try to get there four times a week.
So how much can you bench press?
Oh, that doesn't matter.
Why not, man? Let us know.
Well, because the dick measuring contest is over for me,
Oh
man.
my
I
god.
don't care. As long as I look good, right? Is that what it comes down to? And my health is good. But yeah, no, as you know what though, that mindset leads to a lot of younger guys trying to go heavy a lot sooner than they're capable of, which then in the long run leads to shoulder issues or strains or tears. So I've kind of, I've lived that and I've learned my lesson in certain things. Heavy squats. I got into doing powerlifting early on a little bit. I didn't compete, but uh, I was in a program at a gym that I used to work at under the owner who is known nationally and has won many competitions in powerlifting. He coached me, but like I said, I didn't compete, and you know now I can feel my knees are starting to hurt a little bit more, my hips, bench, my shoulders. So I would advise younger guys not to go too heavy and worry about what your numbers are on the bench. As long as you're progressing, you're putting on muscle, and your body fat's low, and you're able to move and you're limber.
Very good advice. Very good advice. So, do you remember your first pro wrestling match? If so, what do
I do.
you what did you learn from that match?
What did I learn? Well, my first match, I debuted at the Mid Hudson Civic Center in Poughkeepsie, New York, for House of Hardcore, the first one. Uh, eh, to go back a little bit, yes, I trained at Backbreakers Training Center, but I also have additional or supplementary training through House of Hardcore with Tommy Dreamer, and he had started his school. Um, Not myself personally, but others that I would ride with. They knew Tommy, they had connections, so we ended up going there a few times. Um, Ended up going a few more throughout the course of my career. Not so much these days, but uh, we would go and train at his school, and that was probably about a 2 hour ride from Scranton. But we went there, and I was able to get on his House of Hardcore show, which was the first one, and debuted against Big Daddy V.
So, you mentioned being a heel and a face throughout your career. What's your favorite thing to do and why?
What's my favorite thing to do? Well, it was always try to be a baby face so I could do the cool moves. But this day and age, I'm not worried about necessarily the cool moves. I'm only worried about what makes sense and saving my body. Being a heel is fun because it's a little bit easier. Um, it's tougher for fans or people. Um, I would think to gain their trust. Once you break their trust, once you're untrustworthy, it's harder to gain it back. So if you aren't cutting it as a baby face in the ring or on the mic, and the fans aren't really digging it and you're not doing a good job, it's a lot of pressure and it's tough to come back on that. As a heel, I mean, you could be lousy and just curse the whole time. That's the cheap way out. But if you know how to really uh, get the fans going and you really know how to make your opponent look better, whether in the ring or on the mic, I mean that's I think it's challenging, but I think it's a little bit easier being a heel. So I don't know. It's a mix up right now as far as heel or face, but like I said, as long whatever the promoter or booker wants, they'll get.
So, to piggyback off that, how do you try to get fans into your match, or whether you're a baby face or a heel?
Well, I mean, it depends on whatever angle we're going towards. Again, yeah, I kind of have an old school mentality when it comes to wrestling. Approaching every show is different, but I don't try to go in there and just do my highlight reel. I think a lot of younger guys these days feel like they have to hit all their moves, which is not necessarily needed. I think as long as you're telling a story and you're reacting to the fans, or the fans are reacting to you, I think you're succeeding. If it's crickets and you guys are moving 100 miles an hour and you're not slowing down and you're winded and things don't make sense, fans aren't going to react. They're not entertained. Okay, you're kind of doing it to either because you have too much pride and you want to do all your fancy stuff and think people care that much, or you want to impress the guys in the back um, and get more bookings. But slowing down, making things work, make sense, and letting the fans understand what it is you're trying to do through expressions and body language, that's key. So I like I going back, approaching every show depending on who I'm gonna face, depending on their style, depending on how big they are, how small they are, how wide they are, how skinny they are. It all depends on my approach going in. Um, you have to work their style as well, but I mean, you have to do what makes sense. You can't just go in there and throw all your stuff at the wall and hope it sticks. It's not always going to.
So how do you deal with those rookies that you wrestle that want to do all these spots in a match? What do you tell them?
Well, I mean, I think, I've been there and I understand, and I was fortunate enough to have people mentor me and tell me, slow down. This isn't WrestleMania. Slow down. Also, if you're in a, not all shows are going to be sold out, okay? But that doesn't mean that doesn't determine, the quality, your credit, or how good you are. It doesn't. It's just that's just the nature of the beast. Some shows don't draw a lot. Other shows draw a lot of people, a lot of fans. But you shouldn't always. Now, people always say you should always wrestle the same way. Doesn't matter if there's 10, 20, 50, 100, 1,000, 10,000 people. You should always go in there and do. But let's not be reckless here. I would save a lot of bigger things in the ring for bigger shows, more fans. I think it's not careless, but it's save your body. Again, going back to working out and everything like that. Swallow your pride, check your ego at the door, entertain the fans that are there, save big spots, big moves for bigger shows, and then slowing down in a match. So if you think you're going too fast, slow down. If you think you're going too slow, slow down. That's what they say.
I definitely agree with you there, brother. Sometimes I see these wrestling matches on TV that go 100 miles an hour. They kick out of like 30 different finishers. I'm like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah, yeah, that's a whole other story. Doing a whole bunch of moves only to do something else to pin. What were the five moves before that one move? What do those moves mean? You know, kick to
So,
the face, pile driver, then a tombstone and a moonsault.
so
So,
what is your take on the product these days?
well, things evolve, things change. The NBA has changed over the course of years. I mean, back there's a dispute between LeBron and MJ and who's the GOAT. Uh, my opinion doesn't matter right now, but I mean, back then a lot of the points didn't necessarily, it wasn't pull up and hit a 3-pointer. This day it is. They hit threes like no other. Okay. Back then they worked, they played in the paint and within the 3-point range. You know what I mean? So, like I said, that evolved. Football's evolving. Um, Wrestling is evolving. Everything changes, and you have to go with the changes. You have to go with the flow. But at the end of the day, the wheel is still round. So we're not going to try to recreate that. And you could still have a good match without having to do all this fast pace. Now, can I? Yes. Do I want to? Not all the time, but I always look at, if what I'm doing is meaningful and I'm taking my time and I'm allowing the fans to understand, I might get the same reaction someone else will that's doing, you know, a moonsault or, 450 to the outside, nearly smashing their face on the floor, or, doing a whole bunch of, you know, goofy stuff only to get the same reaction I am doing less. So I'd rather do less and get the same reaction and not feel that banged up. But like I said, certain matches, not to cut you off, certain matches call for it. So I get it.
If there's one thing you wish you knew before you started wrestling, what would that be?
Uh, there's a lot. It, and I kind of going in, I kind of knew, and I was a little, afraid of it, and actually experiencing it. But like, not only the politics, but uh, some of the shady characters, people going into business for themselves, knowing who to trust, uh, knowing who not to trust, and just promoters trying to, basically use you, um, not, pay you right, and just I not to be taken advantage of, basically.
So piggybacking off that, how do you deal with backstage politics?
I don't.
Everybody says
I
that.
I don't give a shit. Well, there's a handful of people that I'm actually friends with. Other people are just my colleagues. Uh, I'm not that I don't like people. I do. But I just stay out of people's business. Small talk's fine, but at the end of the day, I don't. I'm not gonna think that you're my one of my good friends. And you have my back, because at the end of the day, and I'm not sure how the younger guys look at it. I think a lot of the younger guys this day and age are trying to be the hero and try to save it and try to rid of the darkness that the dark clouds that cover professional wrestling. Um, make it a positive environment, which all the all the power to them, all more power to them. But um, you know, you go into business for yourself. You're an independent contractor. You are only the one, you and the promoter or whoever's handling the booking. Maybe you two are the only ones that are doing business and negotiating. I don't let anybody try to get involved. I don't talk about it. I try not to, because then it gets to be a contest, and then some people become jealous knowing, hey, this guy, did they're paying this guy and that guy this much, like, well, I'm driving this far and I should get that. And I don't want to know. I'm gonna just worry about me, kind of deal. So
So how do you deal with those promoters that have heat with each other and they say to you, "Hey man, you can't rush over there. You can't rush over there." What do you say to those promoters?
open your filing cabinet and let's see where I sign that contract. Right? I mean, it's the truth. I didn't sign a contract. I have no beef with this guy. I have no beef with that guy. I enjoy working for this company or that company. Whatever issues you have between yourselves, I don't want to get in the middle of it. You know, not that I'm ever in the middle of it, but other guys on the roster could become, get in the middle of things, and they, other guys are loyal to this brand and that brand, and I always tried myself and my like the guys I rode with, who I do call my friends. We always wanted to get out there. Not that we had anything against promotions, but we didn't really want to be tied down. So if there was an opportunity in 3 states away, and wasn't a bad drive and things worked out, we were gonna go. We didn't want to be tied down with booking, like getting having championships, or you know because that stuff, now you have to stay there and you have to report and take the booking and defend those titles, and that could also be, that's a good thing or a bad thing depending on the promotion. Like for instance, if it was like say House of Hardcore, or if it was NEW or Big Time Wrestling, like the bigger ones in the indies, that would be something that you would consider like, okay, well, this is a bigger platform. Fine, we'll keep the championship, or I'll go after it, and I'll continue with these bookings, and other opportunities will have to wait. But if it's not, no offense to smaller promotions, but if there's other opportunities out there, I'm not gonna wait around and take them. So
What would you say is the hardest part of being a pro wrestler?
I well, it would have to be probably getting yourself out there. Like I said, taking opportunities in other states. I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm as, well, was I ever really relevant? But I'm not as relevant that I may have been a couple years ago, slowing down everything like that. But you have to get yourself out there on the road and take bookings in other states. Whether it's, and I'm in Pennsylvania, so whether it's in the New England area, or if it's Maryland or Virginia, or the Carolinas or Georgia or Florida or Midwest, or you have to be willing to go and do it. A lot of younger guys, either they go in, I'd say balls to the wall. They go in, they get a lot on their plate, too much, too fast, too soon, and they may burn out. Other guys have nothing to lose and they continue to do it. That kind of lifestyle could be, either it could fit you, or it could be very detrimental to your health. There's a lot of guys, like I said, you can't trust too many people. If you party and you can't trust yourself, you have to be obedient. You have to sounds like a dog, but you have to stay healthy, stay focused, stay driven. You're not a rock star. You shouldn't be partying like one. And sometimes that gets to guys. Other guys love the business that much and they can just continue to do it, and then that, in the end, that's all they know. That's their life, and you see them, they can continue doing it. And I see guys that have been doing it for 10 plus years that are now really getting signed by Impact and AEW, and that's great. That's what they want to do. That's what pays the bills. So um, yeah, I mean, that's what gets your name out there. That's what is difficult, I would say, because a lot of people can't break you know that dog chain and get away from home, get out from underneath their parents' house, and go out and live life and try to make it. Um, that holds them back. I think personally, it's fear. So what I did you ask me what scares me or what's complicated? It's fear. You have to overcome it.
So, would you say that in order to be successful in this business, you would have to make a lot of sacrifices?
Definitely, definitely. I don't think usually get told, you're gonna miss this, and you're not gonna be at weddings, or you're not gonna be at birthdays or baptisms or family events or friends. Partially true. I mean, that's up to you. You can work your schedule around that. I think we're more, and we've always been, but not as much, more in a virtual, age, as to you know, your stuff's going to be on the internet. You can get yourself out there. You could do yourself wonders by going on social media and promoting yourself. Some people are good, some people are bad at it. But um, like I said, you could schedule your events, your shows around what's important to you personally. Still, you should still live your life, which I think you need a healthy balance. If you do too much, like I said, people get burnt out. But um, I've had experiences where, you know, I'm out there. I lived in Virginia at one point in my career, and I couldn't make it up often to Pennsylvania. And I was wrestling, and I had friends who had things going on that were inviting me to, and were getting mad because, I would go to a wrestling show, but I wouldn't come back to see them. Now they supported me and we're still friends, but how can you support me if you want me to be around? How do you want me? How do you expect me to fulfill my dream if I'm always with you hanging out? Can't you have to be at the wrestling show to be there and fulfill your dream, right? So I've ran into those situations.
So speaking of fulfilling your dreams, have you had an opportunity to try out for AEW, Impact, or WWE?
Not WWE. I've had opportunities with when Impact was TNA um, years ago. Uh, since then, I haven't. I myself and my on and off, but I'd say he's always my tag team partner. We've worked down in Florida during WrestleMania weekend, Tony Deppin's beer house event that was on Independent Wrestling TV, IWTV. Uh, so that was cool, and we've met up with a lot of people that we knew years ago and that we've crossed paths with, and we're on shows, and we've encountered a lot of, I would say, connections, and we've gotten a lot of um, emails and phone numbers to call. So I wouldn't rule it out. And we're still trying to throw our hat in the ring, I guess you could say.
So, what would you say is the biggest regret in your career thus far?
Uh, you know, I don't think I necessarily have any regrets. I don't.
That's a good answer, man. No regrets in life. That's good.
It plays out the way it should.
So, do you have one or two funny road stories you want to share with us?
Yeah, let me see here. I'm trying to think. I mean, there's a lot of them are stupid. Or a lot of them you'd have to know some of the guys that I rode with. Um, trying to think here. Give me a second. I mean,
Or something
for
that
the most
happened
part,
back?
we've had like we rented. I mean, it's not so much funny, but it's a good story. We rented a big, what are those campers, whatever, Winnebago, I guess you could say. And it was myself, my tag team partner, John Redbeard, and Mike Knox, his girlfriend at the time, is now wife, and Luke Gallows. And so we actually wrestled three different promotions, but we did a road trip with them. It was just it was just across Pennsylvania. It was nothing crazy, but the entire time was just a real fun time, and just the hijinks and the stories that they told were funny. Um, but I'm trying to think now. I mean, I can go off and tell you how my tag team partner John Redbeard is basically the opposite of me. I would describe him as he's what Danny DeVito was to Schwarzenegger. He's to me. I'm Danny DeVito, by the way. No, but he's a stockier fellow, big barrel chested, got a big beard, red beard. Uh, our tag team, the Xer guys, the dynamic just worked out. I was always the in shape, athletic in ring performer. He's the gimmick. I would say it's like due date with Robert Downey Jr. and Zach Galifianakis. That's our dynamic. And I don't know if you're familiar with that movie. It's almost like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles with Steve Martin and John Candy. We're all He's always joking, and I joke too. I'm not this vanilla, but he and I could get at each other's throats, and we would every time you'd have to ask other people. Every time we'd go somewhere, a long trip, we'd the ride back would be like hell because we'd be arguing the whole time. We'd have a fun time going places, but when we were tired and we were worn out and maybe just drinking a few too many beers, tensions got, high, and uh, we'd always be fighting. I remember one time, it's not that great of a story, but he wanted to charge his cell phone, and there was only one port in the back seat. So we got the one that you can put both cords in. Everybody could you can charge your phone. No one's swapping the cord and taking it out. How much do you have? You're at 60%, you're fine. Rip it off you and plug there. So I thought at a truck stop, I'll buy this. I'll shut him up. He's being a pain in the ass. Right? Well, he complained the second he got this isn't working. Blah, 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 blah. So I already wanted to punch him in the face, and likewise, he wanted to punch me. I just took the whole fucking thing and threw it right out the window on the highway. So
That's funny, man.
yeah.
Last question for me, Mr. Mike Mitchell. What is one piece of advice you can give someone looking to get into the wrestling business?
Well, I see anymore. I see a lot of people, and I don't think it's just now. I think it's been a thing, but there are young people out there that aren't completely into it. There are people that like you. The first question you asked me is, "Was I a wrestling fan when I first started?" And obviously, yes. And I think that that's very important. I think that's the prerequisite as to becoming a professional wrestler. I don't think watching maybe for like a year or two and not understanding, the history or some past legendary names or events that happened. If you're not aware of that or up to, date with that stuff, I just don't think that you're truly into it. I really think you have to understand what you're getting yourself into. Uh, I, I think a lot of people approach it and then they quit. They pay tuition and they think, I mean, it's not a bad thing, but they think this is not for me or this is not what I thought it was going to be. Think about it before you do it because not that it would be a waste of money in the long run, but if you don't go through with it and you quit, it's going to be a waste of money. It's a wasted opportunity to gain experience and see things from a whole other perspective outside of your little bubble and see things from again from a different perspective as being on the other side of the rails from the fans and just riding the road and getting those opportunities and seeing just experiencing different situations in different cities and states. You'll encounter some weird things and there's stories to be said and told. So um, I mean, there's stories I can't think of right now. You put me on the spot, and I'm like, I just think I have a lot of stupid shit. I mean, they're funny, but they're funny for me and people that know us. But like I said, I can't. I get off this. I'll be like, I should have told him that story. That was really funny. Or a friend of mine was like, why didn't you tell him this? Why didn't you say it? I don't know, man. I'm not into it. Give me a few beers and then I'll probably start rolling out with some. Oh, actually, I do have one. Speaking of beers, we were with Ken Anderson, Tyrus, uh, the Nasty Boys. Who else? Mike Knox was there. Uh, who else? Who else? I'm trying to think who else was there. I can't think. Well, we were in a bar, and I think it was in LaGuardia, the airport, the area. We were at a hotel, and Ken Anderson likes to bust my chops in a good way. We're pretty cool with them as far as I could say we're friends. Not incredibly close, so I won't say that I'm best friends with the guy, and claim that, but we know each other, so that we're good there. But he likes to joke about Shawn Michaels and Shawn Michaels' eye and everything like that, the mannerisms, and I always joke with him about it. And he had me in the bar. He played Shawn Michaels music, and he had me doing the whole Shawn Michaels, the strut, and everything like that. And it was funny, and the Nasty Boys were laughing, and uh, Knobs, who I don't think is doing well these days, he was getting a big kick out of it, and it was just like bringing up old stories for him and how he and uh, the Nasty Boys had crashed Shawn Michaels' first wedding, and Shawn's father would kick them out, and it was just those fun times. Then that's when you get some cool stories out of the boys. I think actually in that same week and the night before, Ken Anderson had me do Shawn Michaels to Bret Hart. And that was nerve wracking. But you know what? I did it because I'm not a bitch. So I did the whole Shawn Michaels thing, and I basically did the whole, the when Brett came back to Raw and Shawn came back and they buried the hatchet and the whole Shawn Michaels saying, you had what you had, you got what you had coming to you and that stuff or whatever, and you deserved it and stuff like that. But I threw some other things in there, and he was less than enthused um, to be given that impression. Ken, Ken asked, he said, do you know who that is? And Brett's like, uh, Shawn. He didn't care. I was like, yeah, it was Shawn Michaels. Like, thanks, Ken. You made me look like an asshole in front of Bret Hart. I made myself because I did it, but whatever. So there's
Hey
something there.
man, sounds like you had a great time.
Yeah, yeah. Many. Hopefully, I get a few more years out of it. But what can I say? And just doing what I got to do. Not as active as I used to be, but I'm more part of our training center here in the Scranton area for Backbreakers Training Center and Backbreakers Entertainment. We just had a show this past Saturday. Gangrel was on our show, and he faced Kit Raff in the main event.
Kit
Uh,
Raff's gonna be on our podcast.
I know, I saw that. Uh, Johnny Moran was on the show. He and I trained together in the beginning. There was an 8-man battle royal for number one contender. I won it. Went on to face the champion in the show, and I beat him. So I'm now Backbreakers Entertainment champion. Um, next show, I'm not quite sure when their next show will be, but hopefully soon. So, but yeah, that's my shout out for Kit Raff.
And where can our listeners and our followers follow you on social media?
I have a like page on Facebook. It's Mint Mike Mitchell. How original. My I'm not so I'm not on I'm on Twitter, but I'm not really on Twitter. I just never really got into it, but I do have. I think it's just at M3 Mint Mike. At yep M3 Mint Mike. My Instagram is I believe it's just Mint Mike Mitchell, and then YouTube is M3 Mint Mike Mitchell. So I mean, just type my name in, you'll find it. Uh, take a look. I'm on Facebook as Mike Mitchell. You could try to friend me. If you look weird and you only have 5 friends, I'm probably gonna delete you. Um, you know, no weird perverted photos. No dirty messages. I try to be like PG. I try not to be too much of an ass, but man, why do you want? What makes people think that they can message you and ask you, you know,
Can you be part
like,
of my podcast?
well, no, you asked that. That's normal. But I mean, I get like, can you send pictures of myself in my underwear? I'm like, well, no. But for a second, wait, time out. Look at my whole profile. Like, I wear bikers, like, and I'm half naked wrestling. Like, what more do you want from me? It's
Well,
free.
Mr. Mike Mitchell, thank you so much for joining us right here on the Five Star Revolution podcast. It was a true pleasure. We wish you the best of luck in your career. And for all of our listeners, go over to Facebook right now and like our Facebook page, Five Star Revolution Podcast. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already, Five Star Revolution Podcast. Mr. M3 Mike Mitchell, thank you so much. Have a
Hey,
great
thank
night.
you for having me on. Thank you.